for everybody, by the way, for coming. Thank you, Gene, for inviting us. Very, very nice, y'all. Um, I I just kind of want to do just a little bit of background and want to go ahead and unleash the Q and A. And I really have a lot of questions for a lot of you that I know are anywhere from beginners to adepts, astral projection. Really, my story as far as my interest in astral projection actually goes back when I was 11 or 12 when I first started doing transcendental meditation. My mom took my sister and I, she was 9. My mom took us down to the TM Center back when Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was traveling through the States. And he wasn't there, but we were, my mom used to tell me about these amazing projections she would have when she was doing her meditations. And for me, it was, I would do my mantra and be gone within like 12 repetitions of my mantra. I'd come back after the 15, 20 minutes feeling just peaceful and centered. And it was great for my mom because I was a very hyperactive child. And so then fast forward now, 1996, I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. I had a kind of a tragic separation. My girl who was pregnant had left in the middle of the night. I didn't know where she was with her other 2 children. And I decided I really needed to start writing down my dreams and I was going to do therapy for myself through dreams. And they just got more and more lucid. And I went to a store and I was reading Journeys Out of Body by Robert Monroe. And I was reading The Art of Dreaming by Carlos Castaneda. And I had my first astral projection. Actually, it was a transition from a lucid dream where I was actually literally starting to do therapy. And then I'd written on my hand throughout the day, I wrote on my hand, is this a dream, on my left hand. On the inside, I put CWR for Conscious Waking Reality. Every time I would see my hand, I would ask that question while I was at work that day and then try to change something with my mind alone. And then I guess later that morning when I was on my way back, I seen my hand and I saw, and it didn't say, is this a dream? It said something else. That transitioned to a short kind of moment with a dream therapist. And then the next thing I know, I was above my body, looking at my body, and just came in closer and reached with my astral hand and grabbed my physical foot. And the fear thought came into my mind because I felt my foot move, that I would, what would happen to me if I wasn't in there when my body woke up. And that, of course, ended. I was right back in my body. And like less than 2 weeks, I had my second one. Then I met a psychic, and that's a whole long story. And she tried to talk me out of it, telling me it was dangerous, and that kind of upset me. And needless to say, 11 months after with her, I went from Shreveport, Louisiana, out to Las Vegas. A few years after I was in Vegas, I met a gal, and I quit smoking weed. I quit smoking cigarettes. I pretty much quit alcohol almost pretty much completely. Like 2 years, I didn't do anything. And all I did was concentrate on writing down, remembering my dreams. And I got involved with what's called Astral Society. It's not a website anymore. Back then, it was fantastic. They had journals, image galleries, and lots of different boards. People could talk about different subjects. They had to do anything from astral to dreams and aliens and just pretty much everything. Kind of like Reddit, but we're all just astrally or dream-minded people. And a gentleman on there's name was Larther, and him and I were kind of like KK Polito and I are. We're just very same-minded. So we decided to do a lucid dreamlink project. And Lucid Blue was the first good result we had on our first one, which was only his. He was only there subconsciously, but I was there consciously. And Larder and I kept our names from each other. So the idea was we were going to share our names together in astral or in lucid dream to prove that we were both there. He was blue in lucid blue. He turned his face blue. So later on, we sort of had a link because we know it was all, there was no chatting. We didn't hear each other's voices ever. We just chatted through the chat function, Astral Society. And come to find out, he happened to be a colored man, and he kept appearing. He was appearing to me as blue in the lucid blue, the shared lucid dream we had. So anyhow, it kind of caught fire, and there was a lot of other members at Astral Society that wanted to participate. So we started the P4 project, the multidimensional dream gathering project, and I did another I think two or three more dream links with Larther, and then we were doing Astral Society ones where everybody was trying to get together, and then I have one with Dream Gazer, and that was all back 2002 to 2004. It was really, I mean, when I look back at those dreams, there's very many that were um, precognitive, and I think KK Valito can verify this. When you're involved in these intense links with other people, it just sort of amps up your precognition and other odd things that can happen, including projection. But so then 2020, in summer of 2020, well, actually, it was more like the end of 2019. I kept hearing Seth, my channeling angel, telling me to find my tribe. And I just couldn't understand what he was saying. At the time, I was in a veterans homeless shelter. I was just getting myself back out of the streets where I kind of turned against society for a while and didn't want to participate in the tax system anymore. And anyhow, so I in June, it was finally June or July when I created the Reddit sub Astreality, and then the first person that really caught my eye with this everything he wrote was like, it was like I was writing it myself. Was KK Bolito, and then so he was the first one I asked to mod, and then all right, KK, are you there, Bolito?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, go ahead. I'm just gonna go ahead and and I'm about ready to hand over to you. Basically, I shared my sigil, which is a bind rune of my first name, and uh, Kyle was talking about making one for himself, and then so I kind of threw him a bunch of different ones out. He chose one, and it's basically created the sigil for Hocleros. So go ahead and go from there, Kyle. Go ahead and hit him with Hocleros and how you link into this.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for sharing all that. Yeah, so I guess starting off, I guess, yeah, once we met, we had been kind of discussing how sigils, can kind of relate to astral projection and how we can kind of use those in order to aid in that way. Basically, I think the idea we kind of had was that, Astreality had kind of been using bind runes, and we figured that that would be a good way to kind of sort of focus our intent on just our objective, which was, at that time to kind of link astrally. And yeah, we just figured that, sigils are a really good way to, it's sort of just a way to kind of focus your intent on what you want to do. So I think, our objective was to meet up astrally, and I think after that is when I kind of started creating the map for Hocleros, and yeah, I think around this time, once Astreality and I met, I had started, we had kind of just shared with each other that we had kind of had this objective to meet up with others, in the astral realm or, through dreams. And it's something I had kind of always wanted to experiment with, because I had been a very active lucid dreamer, astral projector since being a kid. But that the dream linking was something I never really experimented with. Sorry if it's kind of loud over here. I'm outside, but yeah, it's something I never really experimented with, even though I had read a lot about it. I think Stephen LaBerge, who else? Stephen LaBerge, Robert Monroe. I mean, they've both kind of talked about, meeting up with others astrally. But I had never really experimented with myself. I'd only really read about it, and I had really been wanting to kind of just conduct some experiments. So yeah, we had kind of like both kind of decided on a certain bind rune / sigil that we wanted to use, and that was sort of a way for us to, you know, if we meditated on it and focused on that once we were kind of in the hypnagogic state, it's kind of sort of a portal almost for us to go where we want to go. And I think with Hokleros, you know, with the map that we created, it was just sort of an experiment at first to see if just to really see if, you know, if we had enough people focus their intent and their imagination on one certain thing, um, to see if that would actually create something in the astral. Because, you know, I've, you know, all my studies in terms of astral projection, you know, most of it comes from Robert Monroe. I think Robert Bruce is his name, and then Stephen LaBerge. A lot of these people talk about, you know, the more intent you place on something, or, you know, anything you really think of in your imagination is, this sort of creates almost an environment in the astral. And the more people that are focusing on one thing sort of kind of solidifies that in the astral and creates, kind of makes it stronger. It just sort of makes it stronger. And I think that's what the experiment really was to, like, if we get a lot of people to focus their imagination on one certain environment, what if we could just meet there, and, you know, what if it becomes a real place in the astral? And I think that's what the whole experiment really started off as. And we had a lot of interesting results. You know, the first person who went there, I forget who it was, but they came back and were talking about how there was, or actually, I think, you know, once Astreality went there, his first time going there, he told us, he came back and messaged me personally, privately, that he had seen a really young blonde girl, who had reminded him of like Alice in Wonderland, and she sort of acted as a tour guide, if I'm not mistaken. And a few weeks later, oddly enough, another member of the Astreality sub came back and was like, "Yeah, I just recently projected there, and I saw this little blonde girl, and she was kind of showing me around." And that's when I kind of, that's the first thing that kind of took me off guard and was like, "Oh, this is a real thing." Just because he had messaged me, you know, Astreality had messaged me personally, but, you know, he didn't post that anywhere. And then another
Yeah,
user came back, said the
actually,
same thing.
yeah,
Oh, go
actually,
ahead.
I kept it in my dream journal over there, away from there on purpose to see if anybody would have that. It kind of, you want to validate, so you don't want to put it all out there right away. And there's been Easter eggs since Astro Tourist can tell you. She's put lots of Easter eggs out there, which we've had several members, or a couple different members, at least three that I know of, that have found them. Can I ask you a question? How do you draw the sigil when you're trying to create the portal?
Yeah, so for me, I guess once in order to draw the sigil, it's kind of had been something I've had to experiment with, because you know, I've experimented with just kind of thinking about the sigil once I get into the vibrational stage, and then just sort of focusing my intent to go to Hokleros. And then other times I'll be out of body. I'll go somewhere and, you know, maybe outside my house, out, and I'll draw it in the sky with my finger, sort of. Basically draw the sigil with my finger, and it sort of creates like um, a little line in the sky where I put my finger, and I'll draw it, and then I'll just kind of fly up and try to go through it. And I've had success with that. I've also had success with just sort of, you know, imagining that sigil when I'm in the vibrational stage, and then just sort of focusing my intent to go there. So
Well,
it's either or, really.
the last time I tried, and I've been doing this practicing, you remember when I drew the big one I put on my wall and stuff,
Right, yeah.
physically in my room. Well, the way I draw it is I go down through the center, then up to the left, over the top, and then the Burkan on the right, and then I end at the bottom. So it's all one fluid motion: down, up, over, to the right, down, back to the center, back over to the right again, and back down to the bottom. So like you're
Right.
drawing from you know what I mean? So just to keep it, just trying to keep it simple, so it's easier for me to remember when I become lucid or find myself outside of the body. But that's funny. I just kind of wanted to fill in a little bit here. Uh, so we were uh, trying to do just an individual link between the two of us. I'd put my sigil, which is pretty much exactly the same as the Chloros one, except it doesn't have the bottom right leg coming down from the leg that goes out to the bottom point. Um, anyhow, we pardon me. Um, we during the first one, I'm pretty sure I met him at a carnival where I lived upstairs, and he came upstairs with another fellow. We were up there chatting and kind of sharing us astral spliff, I guess. And then we it's twice. I've three times at carnivals during our links. The second link was with uh, Astral Tourist as well as a couple other members that jumped in. Um, I had I during one of them I met uh, a redheaded woman who may have been another member. I don't know if she's here. I invited her to be here as well. But okay, go ahead. Kyle, go ahead and talk more about the how you actually created it, the program or whatever it was, and how it may be channeling.
Yeah. So yeah, I think basically, I think originally the intent was to. I mean, my idea about Holclaros has kind of changed over the over the time that we've kind of experimented with it. Originally, it was more. I mean, the idea I had of it was that you know when you create something and focus your imagination on it, if you have enough energy, imaginative energy focused on that, through multiple people, it can create something astral. Kind of create like an environment in the astral. But then, after going there multiple times, it kind of became clear. I had kind of like spoken with some of like certain beings that I met there. Like I met, that little blonde girl that the others were speaking of, and talked to her. I talked to a couple other people that, beings that were there, and they were like, yeah, we've been. And the weird thing was, yeah, they had told me that, in the way that I view time, they had been there for years, and I was like, well, I only created this map, a few months ago. Um, and that's when me and Astreality kind of started having discussions, just sort of just really existential discussions about the nature of time, and uh, how things exist astrally. And it sort of came more clear that it was more of a almost a channel in a way, because I think yeah I think uh, I think really anything, and now I think really anything that anyone creates is really, in the universe, everything already exists. I think, and this is going to get a little existential here, but I think, if time doesn't exist, everything's already happening at once, and everything that could exist already exists. And I think this is just something that we kind of, channeled. And I think, but I don't think it's just limited to this. I think, anytime someone creates, a piece of art or a work of music or anything, it's something that already exists out there that you're just sort of solidifying in a way. Um,
Bring it through
and
to
that's
this
a whole
reality.
nother.
That's
Go
didn't the
ahead.
little girl tell you she lived there all her life?
Yeah. That's the funny thing. Once I projected there and met that little blonde girl, she's like, "Yeah, I've been here all my life," and was saying that, in the way that I view time, um, she's been there for years and years. So that's what really got us thinking. Like, maybe, when we create something, we're not really creating it. It's just we're sort of channeling something that already exists in a way. And that's a whole nother discussion. It's a really interesting topic. But yeah, I mean, it's um, yeah, I think we've definitely had a lot of success with with this project, and it's really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Not even just that. There's been lots of different things, like Astreality said. There was another user who wanted to conduct a test, and placed sort of. He projected there, put a symbol above the community center that we had, and was like, "All right, guys, I put a symbol above the community center. Someone go there, project there, tell me what it is." And I guess there was someone who was really good at remote viewing, and they remote viewed it, and were like, "Yeah, I remote viewed it, and I saw like a blue glowing pi symbol above the community center." And the guy came back and was like, "Yep, that's exactly what it was." So it's just things like that, a lot of different things where we've been able to verify like different experiments like that, where it's like, multiple people are experiencing really similar things at this at this astral environment, whatever it is. And yeah, it's just a really interesting experiment. And since then we've been really trying to work on dream linking. And I think Astreality already mentioned this, so you can probably talk a little more about that. But whenever we focus our efforts on dream linking, we always have really, really similar, either really, really similar, if we don't dream link, we either have really similar symbols appear in our dreams, or we just have really similar symbols appear in our dreams, or we have really precognitive dreams that show up a lot when we engage in these efforts, which is interesting.
Which doesn't that sort of bring in the thought that, because I posted a while back the evolution of dream time that I've been through, and that basically it seems to me that dreaming is just traveling in astral realms that you may have created or shared with other people that have the same thought process or fears or whatever it is that you're dealing with in that dream. And then lucid would be the next level of awareness, where your consciousness starts joining you, and then you have the ability to either run with it and realize that you're dreaming while you're running with it, or to start creating yourself. And then the next level, of course, would be astral, where you're actually viewing the separation process from your body. Or for myself, it's much easier for me to come back from dream time and have my astral body stay loose and not reconnect with my completely still, and then I can launch from that space, roll out most of the time, pull myself out. But yeah, as far as the imagery that he was speaking about, for us, it seems to be, for me, I keep seeing carnivals. And the last one that I actually went to another home and asked if he was there. And so on buses now, we're actually the last link between myself, Kike, and Astral Tourist was, we were going to look for, actually it was the full moon when we were going to look for a bus and try to go to Heclaros together on a bus. And bus is a symbol for, I think, all three of us, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. We all three sort of, when we have dream links, when we try to dream link, we all sort of have similar symbols pop up, and I think buses have been one of them. And yeah, I think it really helps to sort of focus on a similar symbol when you're trying to dream link with someone, something that pops up for both of you. That way, it sort of helps you to link subconsciously. That's something that's, I think, has really helped us, is just focusing on what do we all have in common between us, what sort of connects us all, and how can we use that to focus our intent to each other.
What I like about Tourist is she's her intent when she goes to Astro is to go to loving spaces. That's where I want to be too. Obviously, I don't want to be in spaces that aren't in a loving mode, sharing, community type, which is what is so great about Heclaros. If you look at the map, you'll see that the island's got wonderful places, everything from anybody who wanted to explore with psilocybins in the astral, to being in a temple to meditate, to being in a sparring ground, to heading out to the beach and hitting the boat to go sailing. And if you go to the top of the island, you'll see that there's a space station. And that's what I really wanted to ask you about, was that Remember that one where you went into the top of a spaceship and that's where Heclaros was inside the spaceship?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'd sort of the weird thing is, yeah, I'd sort of had a lucid dream, years before that. Um, that was that I hadn't even put it together, until I had created that map. But I was like, I think I've actually been here before, and I just basically had a lucid dream that was sort of very reminiscent of what I view that space station to be in Hokloros. And yeah, I think the goal for that space station is really, if we have dream links, we want to be able to, once we get to the point where we can, meet there, on a whim, that we can explore together, go to that sort of space station, and use that as sort of like almost a portal to, explore other astral planes together.
That's
I
fantastic.
think that was the goal for that.
Okay, so do you think we should go into more of a Q&A here and give everybody a chance to ask some questions here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If anyone has any questions, I say go ahead and ask them, and we'll do our best to try and answer them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you both for that. That was very interesting. I think a lot of it's not a very explored topic. So yeah, if anyone wants to ask questions in voice, you can click the request to speak. Yeah, I think Chase, you have one pending. I'll put you up, but it's been there for a while. I'm not sure if you have a question. Or otherwise, you can also ask in the text to voice, and I'll ask for you, or you both can look in the text to voice channel as well if you want. Chase, if you want to go up. I'm not sure if you want to ask a question. Or if anyone else wants to ask a question, just click the request to speak at the bottom. Okay, Fluff, here we go.
Hey there. It's nice to meet both of you. Thanks for coming today. I would like to ask, so if there is someone that's intermediate or adept in the astral and they have their own astral realm, would they be able to bring someone who's completely inexperienced into their space? Or is it sort of the situation that both parties have to be on the same level of experience to be able to access that realm?
I'll let Astreality explain this further if
Well,
he wants to, but I think
yeah,
what I've
it,
kind of
go
or
ahead.
okay, yeah, in my experience, and kind of what I've read about on this topic, because I don't have experience of pulling pulling an inexperienced person out of their body and taking them somewhere, but I have read about that, and from what I read, I think Robert Bruce talks about this, as well as Stephen LaBerge, that I mentioned earlier, that when you pull someone out who's sort of inexperienced, like sometimes they aren't really consciously able to remember it, but they sort of remember it as a dream. If you link with somebody who isn't lucid themselves, they're sort of really foggy and not there. So I mean, it's possible to do, but it's in order to actually have a real be able to communicate with them and in a coherent way, like they have to be lucid themselves as well, is what I understand. And if
Yes, and
not, they're just going to
it's
be
kind of
remembered
rare.
as sort of a dream.
Yeah, it's kind of rare to both people or multiple people to be conscious and in the same exact place. With Lardner and I back in the Astro Society days, our first one was just the intention to link. The second one, we had come up with sort of a kind of a saying or an incantation where we invited the other into our dream. On the third one, we did what's called the dragon's rope technique, where I would, once we were lucid in a lucid dream, we would, he would will a rope away from him out of his dreamscape, and I would will the rope into my dreamscape. And it did happen one time, and I tied the rope around me. I asked two other girls that were with me if they wanted to go with, and they said no. And as I seen my reality, because as I was pulling the rope, it was breaking the wall in the house in the reality I was in. And then I could see this. There was this like a blank space. It's all black, and then there was another wall that was broken through, and I could see this really handsome black man with the rope in his hands on the other side. And when he pulled me, and when I went through and in the space in between, that's when I woke up. Unfortunately, he didn't actually pull me into his dream, but there's so many different ways to do it. And if you really wanted to get another person to take into an astral realm with you, best to have obviously their permission, best to have your intents aligned, and obviously you probably want to keep the emotion or the level of like if a loving space. If you're looking to go into a space where you can spar, that doesn't necessarily have to be not a loving space, but one in which you're both in agreement that that's where you want to be. I wouldn't just try to grab somebody and take them. You know, um, I keep going back to in my mind to uh, you know, Robert Monroe's experiences when he was rising up with other aspects of himself that would disappear at a certain point. Uh, so I'm wondering if that might be the case if you're trying to bring somebody along with you, and if they might like kind of go off into another realm that they're more that they're be at their vibrational level. So if you find yourself with somebody who's thinking the same and has the same desires and same intentions, I think that you're going to be a lot more successful with doing dream links or astral meetings with them rather than those who might be in a different energetic level or a different emotional place.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to say too. Is that in order to link with someone, I think you really do have to have be on a kind of a similar wavelength. Um, you do have to really basically kind of have an emotional connection with them, and I think that really helps. It really helps to, yeah, just sort of have any sort of emotional connection is really what kind of will be able to bind you in the astral. I think if you just try to do it with a random stranger that you don't even know of, I mean, you may not have that much success, but developing a bond with someone really helps to do that. And I think that's what I've learned is, you really do have to have sort of an emotional, not just emotional, but just, just a friendship with someone that you're trying to do this with. And it really helps out a lot. So.
Did you see Alex's little post in here about their own with the sigil and everything? Alex, this is kind of for you. As far as the crystal and the physical plane, Dream Gazer and I back in 2000 and I think 3 was when we were doing a Dream Link. We had I'd shared we both had dream crystals that we kept on our pillows, and we sent them to each other and then slept with each other's dream crystals under our pillows for 2 weeks, and we had some really amazing results with that. So I think you probably can help anchor at least the energy. I'm not sure if we actually can project into crystals, but who knows? I feel like I'm still learning and want to keep learning. That's I think the nicest part about this direction with the astral travel or meeting with others is that it's just there's so much more still to learn about it. Any more questions out there? You can throw them up in text.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever had to deal with any like people from the occult?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like, what do you mean by that? Tell me a little further.
Like actual cult members, like not necessarily like bad intention kind of people, but like just cult members in general.
I'm a little confused because I occult and cult, you know, it's like so far the the science, all these other different. I really I think that it's I tend to stay away from organized religion, organized stuff, and because of the tendency to mark people as, you know, like astral projection, or even if you pay attention to your dreaming. When I was in Shreveport, they would call me. They say we're not into that occult stuff. I'm like, how is dreaming occult? I mean, everybody dreams. Um, you know, how can you call that occult? Um, and as far as like witches or something like that, somebody saying that they're, is that what you're talking about?
Well, sort of. Just basically any one part of those organized groups that, like, it's hard to explain. The simplest to explain it is the stereotypical cult member.
Okay, well, to me, there's two different kinds of people in the world. There's people that want to tie you to their belief system, and there's people that don't mind sharing what their belief system and your belief system without having to you know, tie you to it. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that really want you to believe that this is the way reality is, so that they can feel more comfortable with what they believe about reality. There's other people that are more than willing to share how they feel about it, and more than willing to listen to you about how you feel about it, and then to agree to disagree at the points where you don't, you know, feel like you're on the same wavelength, but at the same time having that respect to allow you to have your own set of beliefs or dogma. Ultimately, when you get into this realm, you're going to find people that are fundamentally of some religion or another that are going to think that you're, you know, going to try to put some kind of judgment on it, that you're some sort of, you know, cultist or a cult person because, you know, you're delving into something that's not, you know, biblically oriented or oriented in physical reality, where your science, like, I'm sure if you've been to Reddit, you've gone to a lucid dream forum and talked about astral travel, they might kind of frown on you or downvote you because that isn't in their belief system. So they want to kind of poo-poo it and kind of you know, throw you in a little category as being wacky or nutty. But ultimately, aren't we all? We're all just really trying to figure things out, aren't we?
Indeed, we
Right.
are.
And I think, you know, everyone on the Astreality sub so far, you know, has been very, you know, we haven't had anyone trying I think if your question is, has anyone tried to, you know, cast any weird spells on our projects or anything? That hasn't happened yet. But yeah, everyone's been very, like, I mean, everyone who's wanted to participate in the endeavors so far have been very, I mean, it seems like their intentions have been pure. And when it comes to occult stuff, you know, I mean, I'm obviously I'm very heavily, you know, interested in the occult, but you know, that doesn't always mean I don't think the occult equates to you know, evil witches and stuff. It's really just more knowledge that most people don't really look into. So in that way, I mean, we're all kind of interested in the occult because, you know, astral projection nowadays isn't really a thing that most people really want to explore. But yeah, I mean, everyone so far who's been a member of the sub we created has been really, yeah, really productive and helpful. And yeah, and we obviously we invite anyone who wants to engage in these projects to come, yeah, to come join and see for themselves, you know, what all can be done in terms of astral projection.
Okay, did you see that comment by Nobody just popped up about wanting somebody? That's so funny because I had asked him to, if he made it to my place, and I was just kind of drifting above my body, to go ahead and help me on out. I'm not sure how they would react to that. I mean, if somebody is pulled out of their body, but if it's even possible, if that might freak them out, because you know how the fear of what's going on will have you instantly pop back into your body. So I guess you would have to make sure they have permission they've given you permission to be in their space, and that they're preparing themselves mentally, or however you prepare yourself, for allowing somebody to help you out of your body. We don't. I've been told that I look like I have a lot of blue around me. So that's kind of one of the signs that when Lardner and I were doing the dream links back in the day, as we've seen somebody with the big blue energy, we knew it was one of us. I'm not sure, Ben. Nobody. Does it? But what do you think, Kyle? Do you think that's more like I feel kind of like it's like we want to take shortcuts. We kind of want to get people to, like when I was doing an interpretation for other people for their dreams, they kind of just want somebody else to tell them about it. But really, this is a internal, and it's a personal thing. And for me, it's when I'm at my most loving and most open that I have these experiences. And when I'm, going through traumas, when I'm dealing more with dream realms that are individual for me to work through certain issues.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that actually, because it really all depends on the state of mind you're in. I've always been a really light sleeper and been able to really get to that vibrational stage really easily since being really young. But whenever there's something going on in my life that's requiring a lot of my energy and a lot of attention, and definitely my astral experience is lower. I just don't have the energy to even focus my time on it. The past couple months, have been pretty crazy for me, so it's been hard. But yeah, I definitely have noticed, when you really do have to be in sort of a very compassionate, loving state of mind. If you're really angry and upset about something and really annoyed or angered, it's going to be hard to project because your mind's going to be really all over the place. And in order to really get to the state of mind where you're able to enter, the vibrational state easily, you kind of have to let your thoughts flow really effortlessly. And yeah, and it happens to everyone. I've been in. There's always going to be times in your life where you're going through something and it's harder to let your thoughts flow effortlessly. So yeah, I think that is a big factor.
Would come in, right? The meditation was
right.
So helpful.
Right, and yeah, I think a specific meditation technique that I've kind of posted about in Astreality is fire Christina meditation, which it's really helpful for me at least, because it really promotes mindfulness, concentration, and it also really helps you to kind of it really helps with the hypnagogic state. Basically, the technique is you just sit there and stare at a candle flame for a couple minutes, and you close your eyes and just focus on that after image of the candle flame. And basically, you do this to the point where the after image you're looking at is just sort of a visualization. And you can kind of look into this more. I'm not going to be able to explain it all right now, but what's his name? Daniel Ingram is the guy who really has promoted it. It's sort of an ancient Buddhist type meditation, but yeah, that specific meditation has really helped me in order to let my thoughts flow more effortlessly, to be more mindful, to be more to concentrate more easily, but also to able to keep my concentration in that hypnagogic state, to be more aware once the vibrations start.
This is kind of a great chance for me to thank you again for that advice that you gave me that led to the really intense multiple astral projection. You said put something in my mouth from the environment to stabilize it. And after I did that, I went through those astral projections from a dream body and the lucid dream in bed, including at the very end when I actually projected out of my actual bed, and there was two people there. One had like a brownish hair, and the other one was actually three. There's a woman and then two men. They were sitting in my studio apartment. One had like really red hair, and another one had like brown hair. And then the woman was saying that what I was doing was lucid dreaming, not astrally projecting. When I projected out of my physical body, I could hear her saying that, and I asked her to go ahead and leave, and I escorted her out. And then I recognized the one guy. I don't know who he was exactly. May have been Kyle. And then the other one was, he had really red hair. And I asked, I know that I hadn't given him permission. I asked him what he was doing there, and then I was back in my body again, waking up or coming to. But that was all. I think all of that was. I think I give a lot of credit to you because of that advice of putting something from the environment in my mouth to solidify it.
Right. Yeah. That's a technique we always push pretty heavily on our sub. Is, you know, once you're out of body, in order to stabilize, just go find something on the ground, put in your mouth. Doesn't matter what it is. You know. But I mean, I've just gone outside and put grass in my mouth or a flower or just really anything. And I think why that's so effective is because, you know, the chewing something, you know, just it engages a lot of your senses. You know, the taste, touch, smell. Sometimes, you know, it's just putting something in your mouth really engages a lot of your senses, and that sort of solidifies the environment around you, as well as like more. It just sort of attunes you to it more. You know, everything becomes a lot more clear after that, and you're just more in it. If that makes sense.
I've
Yeah,
never tried
that's the
that.
biggest.
I'm gonna
That's
try
the
that.
biggest yeah, that's the biggest stabilization technique we kind of talk about, because it's very, very effective for everyone who's tried it so far. And yeah, if anyone hasn't tried it, definitely try that.
Was there more questions?
Taylor, did you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, guys. I think this is a really awesome topic, and I think it's also a really a good way for people who haven't heard about astral projection. Starting with the concept of dream sharing can kind of get them into the astral projection topic. So my question was, where did the name Holclaros come from? I'm not sure if I read in those posts how that actual name kind of got chosen, if it was received from the astral. And then I was also curious if anyone has like extended interviews with the blonde girl that seems to be on the island. It seems to me like she seems to be the person to go to try and get some more of the history of how this island exists and how many people have created it, or if it's a separate thing that you guys have started to join.
Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of the Hokleros name, honestly, that just, you know, when I got into this sort of this just mindset and to create this map, you know, I was really wanting to focus on experimenting with, you know, linking with others in the astral, and as well as, you know, having a place where I could return to whenever I astral project. Because I had astral projected for a while at that point, but that I really wanted to try out, you know, creating a place that I could return to, as well as others that could return, you know, a place that others could return to as well. And at that time, you know, when I was creating the map, I was like, what am I going to name this place? And I think the first thing that popped up in my mind was just Hokleros. I really don't know where it came from, honestly. It just sort of popped up. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a boring answer, but that's really what it is. In terms of the blonde girl, you know, I know a few people have talked to her. I mean, my experiences with her, I think I've only met her really a couple of times. But yeah, when I met her, it was in the spiritual center. Like there's a sort of building that's kind of towards the community center that we laid out. We called the spiritual center, and it's just a place where like all these different, you know, what we had in mind was just people of different religions and spiritual beliefs can meet there and, you know, share their knowledge with each other. And one of the first times I went there, I went to that place, and she was in there playing the piano, funnily enough. And I'm trying to remember back, but yeah, I have this all written down. I went and basically, yeah, I went and talked to her, and she was telling me Yeah, I'm trying. She was telling me that she had just gotten a baptism or something. Like it was in the Christian zone, I guess, because she was talking about a baptism and how she was trying out the Buddhism section of this spiritual center and how it wasn't working for her, and she went to Christianity, and um, that's when I asked her about like how long she had been there, and she was like, "Yeah, it's been in the way that you view time, it's been years and years." Um, and after that, she was just telling me, she was kind of talking about that, and a friend of hers or something came and got me and basically gave me this serum that was supposed to allow me to stay there longer. Um, it was just this oil that I put on my tongue, and it was like this really strong tasting thing. And she was like, "Yeah, this will help you to stay here really long." Um, and after that, I was like, "Okay, I gotta." I think after that, I just really wanted to make sure I remembered everything she told me. I was afraid because sometimes when I project and I'm out for a long time, like it's the details are really foggy, and I really wanted to remember what that blonde girl told me. So I decided to wake myself up right after that. But I always wonder, how, how long I would have been able to stay there if I would have just let myself stay there. But
For me,
yeah,
for
that's
me,
really
what,
the only that's really the only experience I've had with her, to be honest.
yeah, hers for me it was the very first one, and when I got there, she basically asked me, gave me a little device. It was a little like a tube that like about a little bit smaller than a Pringles can and a little bit shorter than it. But as you twisted it, it opened it up so that a larger section opened up, and she basically was guiding me around the island and had me catch different creatures with it. And at one point, she did tell me that I was excellent at catching the creatures. And then the other thing, I caught this. It was kind of like a bee, about the size of a bee. It was like, or sort of like uh, a June, or not a June bug, but the lightning bugs. But it was so small that it flew back through. And when I caught it, she told me that I graduated to now where I could ride horses. And then she showed me over to where these horses were, and they look like those hoppity horses, like like little kids have that are like big and round, and you bounce on with the head on top. And then I lost sight of her when I was on a mountain, chasing after what looked like a kind of a ferry, and I was sliding down the side of the mountain trying to catch it when I came to. But yeah, I didn't have much of a chance to ask her because she just kind of led me all around the island. I was busy trying to catch the creatures as we went, and it was kind of like almost like a video game. Like I was getting to certain stages as I caught each one. But yeah, that's about all I have for the girl, for my experiences with her so far, except for my last one. She wasn't there, but I think that house that I was in could have been hers because it looked like something out of Alice in Wonderland. Everything inside was very colorful, from the plants to the knickknacks and the different artwork. It was just colors beyond the spectrum of the rainbow. It was pretty amazing. The last time during the full moon link, when we tried to link on the full moon on I think that was the 29th, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's others in the sub who've had experiences with her, but they're not really here to talk about it right now. I'm sure if we went and dug those up, we'd be able to get more information. But yeah, I know a couple others have met her and said that she reminded them just of a Alice in Wonderland type figure. That's kind of been a common theme that people have reported on. So yeah, it's definitely really interesting. It's probably the biggest, the the common thing that's been shared among a lot of people who have visited, as well as there's a bartender I think a few people have seen. I've seen him as well, towards the beach. And people have reported really similar features about him that have been interesting. And then, yeah, I know there's just other Easter eggs that people have, hid, and no pun intended since it's Easter today, but yeah, it's people have hid little items around the island, and others have reported and, said, hey, I saw this, and the person's like, oh yeah, that's what I hid there. So yeah, a lot of that stuff is really interesting. Kind of, it just sort of points to the validity of it, I guess. So it's definitely very interesting.
Some more questions?
So one thing I wanted to ask was, you know how well, I haven't been able to verify it myself because I can't project, but you're able to manipulate time in the astral, like move backwards and forwards a ways in it.
Yeah, I definitely. Is that your question?
Well, that was
No.
my first question, just to make sure of that.
I mean, in my experience, yeah, time is very, very malleable in the astral. Like, once you get out, you're not necessarily, in the specific time zone that you were in when you projected. Like I've projected, and when I go outside of my house and look at my neighborhood, it looks kind of old fashioned sometimes. So I'm like, maybe I'm in sort of an older version of my neighborhood, stuff like that. And I know you guys recently had the guy from the Astral School YouTube channel on, and he's about how
Still there?
the further into the future you go, the longer you can stay there. Which I haven't really messed around with that too much. That's kind of a goal of mine. But basically, he's saying the further into the future you go, the longer you can stay. And he's talked about experiences where he's been in the astral for months and months, or actually years and years maybe, and he's come back, and it felt like years to him when it had only been like a few hours in real time. So all that stuff gets really interesting, and I think you can definitely, when it comes to astral projection, you can time travel, I think. But when you go to the future, it's more possible timelines rather than the set future. When you go to the past, it's the set past. But when you project to the future, it's more you're projecting the possible timelines. So it's not, if you go to the future and you see something, it's not always guaranteed to happen, if that makes sense.
I get that, but
As far as I'll just expound on that a little bit. Back in when I was doing the individual link with Dreamgazer from Astral Society, a lot of the I wouldn't call them projections, but I was definitely going into her past. I saw her. She was married and had 2 daughters, and I went in the past with her and had a bunch of bikes in the yard. I was in the yard, the same potlucks they were having. Everything was kind of the same. And then the most potent one was when I went to the future and didn't know it. I was at her house, didn't know it. There was a storm outside, and it struck a tree, and a tree fell into the house. And I posted that. 2 days later, that happened. The storm happened at her house. This is in Michigan. I was in Vegas. It struck the tree outside her house, hit a branch, broke it off, and it fell into her house. And she didn't really realize it. In my projection, lucid dream, whatever you want to call it, the last part of it was a woman with a clipboard, and when the adjuster came, the insurance adjuster came, the woman with the clipboard, that's when it occurred to her, because she had read it 2 days prior when I posted it at Astral Society. So basically, I had a precognitive dream while we were having a lucid dream link project, and that was the one we were sleeping with the crystals too. So I think that all just added to the power of it. Plus the fact that our intent was exactly the same, to meet and shared lucid dream.
interesting. So, yeah, what I'm curious is if you're able to actually share information like from the future and bring it to the past with shared projection environments like holocrons.
Sorry, can you repeat that question? Or maybe did you hear him?
I think he's talking about sharing information in the future or in the past in a shared lucid realm, right?
Yeah, like.
Yeah, I think that's actually been happening. I think I'll just go real quick here and then let you go. I had one a long time ago where a guy much like Don Juan from Carlos Castaneda was sitting in a cafeteria, and I got up and I was like looking at everybody. I think I touched a couple people and I said, I know how to tell when I'm astral projecting or lucid dreaming. It's when I can fly. And then he like did this big loud clap and said, something like congratulations or something like that. And I think that might have been inside of the spirit. And this goes back to 2000, what, 2 or 3 when that happened. So again, time being so malleable and all time seeming to be now in the astral, there's just really, I think it's going to depend on your energy and what's in your mind as you're projecting or lucid dreaming as to where you're going to end up. Go ahead.
Is there any more questions from anyone? I probably got to hop off here in a few minutes, but if there's any more questions, I'm willing to answer them here, and I'm sure Astreality is as well.
Yeah, if anyone wants to ask a question, just click raise request to speak in voice or ask in text to voice. I think there were a few in the text to voice. Let's see. I think there's one from Alex here. I think, did you ask that one? Answer Alex's about, is there any way to anchor a place like Hoklarus using a tool either in the physical plane or the astral plane?
So what do you mean by anchor? Like, can you expand on that a little bit?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm reading off text to voice here. It says that we already have a place and a sigil and everything. However, we want to give it a boost for people to access it faster and also draw from that anchor, quote unquote, energy source while they are there. I've heard about using a large crystal in the physical plane. I'm not sure how we would link it. So I think she's asking how you could like link the energy of say a place like Hoklarus to a physical object, to use it as a tool to get to access the place faster.
Okay, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've sort of thought about that actually. I haven't necessarily put too much effort into it myself, but I think I know there was another user on the sub talking about how he had been meditating with like a certain crystal. I think it was like a selenite crystal or something like that. Sort of holding it while he was doing the visualizations of Hoklarus. So basically, meditating, looking at that sigil, and then sort of visualizing, in his mind what it looks like while holding that crystal, just with the intent to sort of put that intent into the crystal, that energy into the crystal. So yeah, I've heard of people experimenting with that. I haven't done too much of it myself, but I think I think it would work. I think really the biggest thing that helps with projection is intent, and the more intent you put on place towards something, the more success you're going to have. So I think, yeah, using a physical object is really going to help, whether it's a crystal or whatever you want, really. I think, yeah, just using an object like that will really help to, if you put enough energy into it. Yeah, I think that could definitely help.
I wonder if a mantra or some sort of, because if you're anchoring it with a crystal in the physical, and crystals we know work off frequencies, and sound has certain frequencies, so perhaps, and this is just an idea to throw out there, some sort of mantra that y'all could repeat to create the same vibrational pattern with the crystal, and then try this the same in the astral realm itself. If you have like another crystal in the astral realm itself that it's supposed to anchor to, trying the same thing, repeating the mantra, creating that vibration in the astral as well. Perhaps that could help link the two. be crazy, wouldn't it, if we pulled bits of the physical world into the astral. I'm reminded of Astral Tourists. I think it was trying to bring a mountain through a portal and end up being a dollhouse or something like that, if I'm remembering right. Are you still there, Tourist?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. And I think. Yeah. That's another thing. Mantras, I think, are really helpful too. I think mantras are sort of like sigils in the way that, yeah, they can really help focus your intent on something, because when you repeat a mantra, it's sort of replacing your, repetitive thoughts in your mind with something that's, whatever the mantra is. It sort of pushes those thoughts out, and lets you focus single pointedly on, your intent. So yeah, I think just coming up with a mantra, and linking that to whatever you're trying to accomplish astrally, or wherever you're trying to go astrally. I mean, we sort of word Hokleros as a mantra, when we're focusing on the sigil. So I think mantras are really helpful in that regard.
Nobody? You have a question?
I mean, I had a question about the mugwort, but somebody answered in the chat. But since I'm here, I just want to say thank you and express my gratitude for this Discord to exist in the first place. 4 years ago, I was getting interested in astral projection, and you know how little content there is out there. So it's nice to have a place where we can meet in the third density and share our information and experiences and ask questions. And I love those meetings we were having.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful and important to connect with others on this topic for sure.
Yeah, since you don't really get to talk about this a lot, in real life, they don't really talk about it with anyone. So it's nice to see other crazy people like me and be able to share, talk about it.
Okay, there was.
Well, I don't have a question. So
Okay.
I'll leave the room for someone else.
Oh, we have another speaker here. Simad.
Yes, my question is about the sigil contest. I'd like to know, because now I'm making it. So I'd like to know if it's supposed to represent more our group on Discord, or it's supposed to represent Hokleros specifically.
So our vague idea that we don't really have a concrete plan yet, but we know that we want to make a sigil, possibly make a place that we want to create, like Hokleros, or maybe meet up somewhere else. But yeah, these guys are from a different sub, Astreality, so we were hoping to get a bit more insight from them, or maybe even team up with them. Well, we have no idea, but no, it's not so much to represent Astral Lounge. It's just absolutely anything you want. Yeah, it's not specifically to do with Hokleros. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. As for how to design it, I haven't a clue. Maybe these guys would be able to direct you a bit better on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. So we're trying to make our own place, but we're not sure yet what's going on with that. We've got a few submissions for sigils.
Sure, I've seen some that are like pretty intense. They have a lot of different stuff in it. The one thing I think that I like about ours is that we kept it simple. I've heard people say it looks like Pac-Man and other things like that. But if you look at it, it's Kano on the left, Issa in the middle, and then now talking about runes. If you're familiar with the full Hark and runes, Nordic runes, or Kano's on the left, Issa's in the middle, and then if you look within it, you got Bracana on the right, but you also within Bracana, you also have Ansus, and you have Rado, which is journey. So it's got a lot of really powerful rune
Yeah.
symbols within that one simple symbol. It's a bind rune that's got a lot of different energy from the different other runes that are inside of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a little contest going on, so we've had about 10 submissions. So I think we're going to have a community vote on which one is the best, basically. Okay, so there are a few questions in the text to voice I noted down from Izzy Toast. What are your guys' experiences with spirit guides? Do they speak to you in dreams?
Are you still there, Kyle?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, so in terms of spirit guides, I think people use different terms, for the same thing sometimes. I think I haven't necessarily met, a specific like spirit guide or angel or, anything like that. I know others have more. I mean, I think the thing I connect with in my experiences is just, I guess I just sort of call it just the awareness behind the dream. I feel like if I call out to the dream something that I want to happen or want to experience, there's just sort of this awareness behind it that is sort of controlling it. It seems like, and then sort of I don't know how to explain it. Just it's sort of navigating and directing the whole experience. So it's some people would call that your higher self or your whatever you want to call it. But I know, I'll let Astreality talk about this. I know he's sort of had similar experiences with, communicating with higher parts of himself, and, sort of like angel type figures that appear to him. So he probably has a little more to say on that than I do.
Yeah, I'm more of a there's three. There's clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience. When I met, I'll call her Claire in Shreveport back in '96. She was full on clairvoyant, seeing spirits since she was 3 years old. She's the one that introduced me to Seth, that she called my channeling angel, which I like to joke and say is my higher Seth. As far as myself, I'm more of a clairsentient. I feel more. And then I like I said, I actually argued with Seth when I met Claire's daughter, because he was telling me as I was leaving the bookstore where I met her that I was going to get with her mother, and I'm like arguing like, no, I'm not getting with her mother. She's kind of weird. There's no way that's happening. And this voice just kept coming back saying, yeah, you'll see, like really cocky. And so I'm a more clairsentient, just a touch clairaudient when I need to hear. And I think most of us do. I think most of us have this happening inside of us where we have that conversation in our mind, and that voice that seems to be much wiser than what we want at a base level, seems to tell us, kind of like the devil and angel on your shoulders. As far as in dream, in astral or dream, I had one astral projection where I back in 2002 or 2003, once I got out of my body, I walked down the hallway where in my trailer, and there was on the left, the bathroom wall had a full length mirror on it. And when I looked to my left as I walked by, there was an exact duplicate of me walking right behind me. So yeah, I think that was a glimpse, but it kind of freaked me out, so I didn't want to stare, so I just kept walking. And then after that, I think that's when I went to the red room, which was a very very spiritual experience. As soon as I hit the room, I got on my knees and I was thanking Creator, God, Goddess, whatever you want to call it, the universe, for that moment. And then went up some stairs, and there was 4 doors. And when I got up to the 4 doors, I thought of I think it's a Hindu thing where you must face your 4 demons before you can become, Zen or whatever. And I was too afraid to go through the doors, so it ended at that point. But yeah, as far as Seth, just recently, I had one. I think I put that up there in the text or in the chat there, that I met Seth. He had like a gray hair, longer gray hair, and this kind of fishing cap on. Had this look of just all this wisdom. And but yeah, as far as if you want to, you don't have to be in the astral to meet your spirit guides or your angels or whatever you want to call them. You can do it in the physical, and it's by using your senses. Usually have you ever heard like some truth and then you feel like that full body shivers? That's one of the ways that I'll know that Seth's speaking to me, or if he's touching the top of my head or the back of my shoulders. And a lot of times when I was doing a lot of dream interpretation or dream work with people back in 2002 to 2004, I would go back later and read these things, and it's like, these are not my words. So I was definitely in a channeling mode with Seth. So, any more questions? I'm sorry, I don't want to go on too far there.
No, that's fine. I had a question, which also someone else asked. What they said, I forgot to ask earlier, but when doing astral meetups, are time zones relevant? So, like, I was going to ask, do you have to, be out of body at the same time, or can you meet up through the kind of fluidity of astral time?
In my opinion, I think it's really, like I was saying earlier. I think time is very malleable in the astral. I think really when you want to look at it, everything is really just all happening at once, and time is really just a concept we've kind of created. So in the astral, that stuff doesn't really match up too much. I think planning the meet on the same night though does sort of focus your intent. So I think it's more, like I've been saying this whole time, it's more about the intent than it is the actual specifics, like time and stuff. But I think a lot of people have had success with doing these kind of things when you don't necessarily have to be trying it at the exact same time, the exact same minute or anything. Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is kind of irrelevant when it comes to in the astral. But I know others have probably had different experiences. So, but yeah, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and another question from Taylor: if Hokloros is an island, has anyone checked if there are other neighboring islands?
That's actually a really good question. Because that's something we probably want to explore a little more. So I'm sure there are, and we do have a kind of like a little boating zone. There's like a little sort of near the beach area. There's a big boat that I haven't actually gone to myself yet, but yeah, that'd be something that would definitely be worth exploring. That's something I hadn't even really thought of. Yeah, good question.
That actually, that's a great question. That we actually have a boat, like you said here, there at the island. And the last time I was there, I'm looking for the link now so I can throw into the chat. It was called Hokleros Aquatics, and when I was there was a lot of people were. I was underwater for a while. There were some sort of exercises going on under the water, and on top of the water, at the beach, there was a lot of people loading up the boats. So I think people are taking trips with the boat from Hokleros to see if there's other islands out there. At least I would think that's what they were doing. It seemed like it. I'm trying to find that link. Any other questions while I find that?
Yeah, does anyone want to ask any questions in voice? Just click the request to speak.
Okay, it's me again. So I had a question. You spoke about sentient. Sorry for my pronunciation. My question is, do you think it's possible for a clairsentient to develop clairvoyance, or it's more of a one or the other kind of deal? I can feel like my own chakras and auras, and sometimes other people, but I would like to learn to also see them visually, since I'm a very visual being. That would be like one of my main objectives right now, to develop that.
That's an excellent question. And with me, it's always been more sentience and a little bit of clairaudience. And then
Yeah.
I've never actually seen anything, but the woman that I was with, since she was well, from the time she was 3 years old, she saw them, and she explained it fairly well to me. Have you ever noticed like something out of the corner of your eye, and then you turn to look at it, and you can't see it anymore?
Yeah.
think I think almost everyone I spoke to is like that. Now, the way she explained it to me is that the spirit realm is kind of at a perpendicular to our world. So you can't look at it directly. You have to look at it using your peripheral vision. And when she would look at angels and talk to her channeling angel Samuel, she would look in the top right corner of her eyes. And like I said, you'd almost not see any of her pupil. It was so far up there. Yeah, and she was just, I guess, naturally learned that when she was 3, before she had time for anybody to tell her what reality was. And it was so strong for her that the Catholic priests and the nuns that tried to beat it out of her, and her parents and her brothers and sisters who tried to beat it out, they just could not convince her that she wasn't seeing what she was seeing. If you think back, most people, when their children have invisible friends, that later on, they lose due to whatever programming that goes on that, well, of course, nobody wants to be thought they're crazy, so they kind of let that go.
Yeah, I remember talking to my mom when I was, I don't know, 6 years old, and I don't remember what I said exactly, but it's just the way that I said it. When I was young, I don't remember seeing them, but I remember telling my mom about, the colors around the people. And I think that's the word I used. I said, Mom, the colors people have around them. And then she looked at me funny and saying, like, what are you talking about? And that's when I realized that it's not normal. But the way I, talked to my mom, for me, it felt like it was normal. I felt like everybody was seeing these auras or color. I didn't know what to call them at that age. And then I realized, oh, that's not normal. And I started suppressing that, I guess. And now I want it back.
Did you stop looking at and start looking through things? I've noticed that's in '89 when I went through another huge spiritual a time. It was I'm a little bit old here. It was 1989, and I met Alea, my mentor, and she taught me how to see and feel energy. Of course, she taught me how to work with it as well. I think I can't remember if she did I think she did the Reiki 1 with me, and then I did the Reiki 2 later in Vegas. But yeah, as far as seeing energy, I mean, I think the first thing we did was we went outside, and she told me to relax my eyes and look into the blue sky, and then started seeing the little white dots dancing everywhere. That your physical people, your physically minded people will tell you it's just some part of your eye or something. But there was no rhyme or rhythm to it. It just sort of was there. And then she had me do the same thing where I should just relax your eyes and look past the top of the trees. And then I just started seeing the haze on top of the trees. They look light green to me now. And then the same thing with each other in the class in front of a white wall. Just relax, kind of look through them. If you've ever seen Patch Adams, when the guy with the fingers, he's how many fingers am I holding up? And he keeps saying 4, and then he finally tells him, look through my fingers, don't look at my fingers. And he does. Then he sees the 4 energy fingers off to the side, and he says 8. He's like, you're a genius. It's like that. That's kind of what it's all about. Just kind of looking past the physical to let the energy body itself pop up and to see it. So yeah, you can go right back to that, just right back to like when you were a kid, seeing the energy again. It's just a matter of sort of letting go of the
My
programming
question,
that we've done.
You're already a clear sentient. Can you develop also the clairvoyance part, or it's like I said, one or the other type of deal, or you can just have all of them if you want?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only thing that holds us back is ourselves, our lack of imagination, our lack of I mean, I think that's where there's a lot of biblical stuff that I got when I was younger that kind of made sense now, like becoming like children again to enter the kingdom of heaven. I mean, seeing with a child's eyes, where you're basically leaving it up to the universe to open up to you and show it as it is, rather than putting a prejudgment on what the universe is supposed to be or what physical reality is, and then interpreting it that way.
Yeah, well, I bought a book recently that teaches about developing your own psychic abilities. So I'm definitely gonna go through that and see what it brings me. But so far, seeing auras for me, I can like put my hand on a sheet, white sheet, and just like you said, look through it like you look like sort of beneath your finger, and eventually you see some sort of either blue or white light. I think it's your etheric body. It kind of like caressed your whole body, and just it really like it followed the lines of your physical body, so to speak. So I'm able for now to go there, but like it's not that strong or anything.
Just keep relaxing and keep relaxing. I think the more you do it, the more subtle energies come up. At first, it was like, for me, it was like the heat wave on top of a really hot road. You kind of see that kind of distortion.
I know.
And then it's solidified. Then the lower ones closest to the physical trees or whatever would get a little bit more solid and more green. And then there was just like a haze of additional ones, kind of like perhaps if you think about it with our chakra systems in our body and that they respond to different energy bodies. Who says that the trees or the earth isn't as similar as us? That it doesn't have, they don't have energy, a different level energy bodies that can be seen as well.
Yeah, that's right. I remember practicing on people. Like I was a correctional officer not long ago, and sometimes you go in court and you just stand there and wait for the whole court. And I was looking at people that were like sitting next to a white wall, and I tried to look normal, and then I just like sort of glare at people and trying to see a little bit of their aura just popping out to distract myself when I was getting bored at work.
Yeah, it's basically it's kind of a letting go. A letting go process, letting go of what you want to, what you think you're going to see, to what you want to reality, to what the more subtle realities to open up to you. Obviously, people that have,
you're cutting out,
not allowing that possibility to occur.
No, you cut out. It seems like we had a dimension splitter.
Whereas, people that
or just bad connection.
Oh, sorry. Am I coming through it all now?
Yeah, you are.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, I think we are the only thing that limits ourselves. I think that and old programming that we haven't cleared. I go back into Carlos Castaneda's training with Don Juan, where he had him basically write down everything that happened to him in his life so he could clear that energy out and move towards the future, and allowing that other energy that had been part of his life to be burned away or gone, so he can move forward without being pulled back into those old core belief systems that the Seth material. If you've ever checked any Seth material out about creating your own personal reality, I think that stuff was very instrumental in my being able to remove core beliefs that were kind of holding me back from. Plus, I got to tell you, when I met Claire in Shreveport, I thought all psychics were just playing a mind trick on people, that they get you to convince you.
I thought they were all
certain things.
Scam artists.
Basically. Yeah, if they convince you to believe something, then self-fulfilling prophecy would take over, and you would give them the credit when it was actually you that did it all along, just by believing in it and believing in your ability to do it.
Exactly.
Until I met Claire, there was I thought all of them were charlatans, and then I met Claire, and I was like, there literally are people out there that are clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairsentient, and that are tapping into these abilities that we all have the ability to tap into. It's just the ability to open your mind and allow yourself to tap into it.
It's funny, like how when you start believing in something more and more, the more it shows up in your reality. I think like the more you get sign. Like for example, I was meditating this morning and I was focusing on the ear ringing in my ears. So instead of focusing on the breath, I was all focused on that thing I was hearing in my ear, the frequency. And then all of a sudden I could hear jungle sounds or temples and bells, mostly nature sound, but sounds that are not in my room currently. But for some reason, I hear it, you know, and that's like a positive sign that, you know, whatever you're doing right now, it's working, and we're bringing you more proof to increase your faith in this, and, you know, move forward in this path.
And yeah, while we're on this topic, I'd say if you're interested in this type of topic, you know, how your beliefs create your reality, I'd say, like you said, the Seth material, yeah, that's really good stuff to look into. The Nature of Personal Reality by Jane Roberts. It's a great book that I'm actually reading right now. Basically talks about all the stuff, yeah, that we're talking about right now, just about, you know, how how your core beliefs sort of shape the reality around you, and how you can kind of use that to your advantage.
Yeah,
yeah, that's just a little side note.
Not long ago, I would say, like maybe 2-3 years ago, I would look at this Discord and like, what kind of wacko are these guys? Or, you know, and it's crazy how your consciousness evolved to those things, and how the more open your mind is, your point of view change, and then your reality change. And it's like there's a saying that says, once you bathe it in the ocean, it doesn't matter if you believe in water or not.
Right.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like well, there was a time when I was upsetting a few members at Astral Society because I had decided to change the name of Obi, out of body experience, to AB, away from body experience, and I just a vision, it came to me that our astral body, our more subtle bodies, are outside of our body. So it's kind of like looking in a car, and I just kind of helped myself, and I think a couple other people mentioned help, like looking inside a car to see yourself, and there you see the reflection of yourself in the window, and trying to think that reflection out of the car. What's not in the car? You're not in the car either. Your astral body isn't in the car, so it's not a matter so much of getting out of your body. It's just separating your energy body away from your physical body, and of course that goes right into Robert Monroe stuff about don't think about your body because that'll keep you in it. Think of a place you'd rather be away from your body, and then that will of course draw you to that place. And it's not so much of a trying to be pulled out of your body. Now it's just a matter of allowing your consciousness itself to go along with that astral body away from your physical one.
Yeah, because there's some people that say that you're actually astral projecting right now in this very moment. All you got to do is switch your focus of awareness of where you place your awareness.
Yes, you're having
Right, yeah.
another back in the body experience right now.
Yeah, I'm also.
Yeah, and I think there's sort of, a level of you, there's different levels of yourself, like layers almost, where, there's always a level of you that's in dream time, that's, there's a part of you that's dreaming right now. It's more just focusing your awareness to that part of yourself. That's what, astral projecting and lucid dreaming really is. Yeah, I kind of agree on that. I think it's, it's happening all the time. It's more just about where you're focusing your awareness.
When I hear other people experience, usually they have this feeling that when the astral projects sometimes by accident or in the middle of the dream, all of a sudden they're doing whatever the astral body was doing at that moment, but now you're aware of it, and it feels like you're, when you reload of your old save game on your favorite video games, and then you wonder why your character is in this room at this particular place and what you were up to.
Yeah, I had a Dreamtime experience where I was smoking a joint with some people in the dream. It was somewhat lucid because my conscious mind was thinking about this reality while it was going on. When I woke up from it in the dream, I was reaching to my left behind me to this guy to hand the joint to, and when I woke up in my bed, I was leaned up to my left with my hand over, handing the joint, and seeing a ghost-like hand trying to receive it. That's what I saw when I woke up. Yeah, crazy, right? And I'm like, yeah. So, and then that was part of the evolution of Dreamtime that I had was what we are. I mean, I don't want to get into all, to be crude about it, but everybody knows about nocturnal emissions, or when they've had a dream where they were peeing and they wake up and they peed the bed. we're in the correlation between the astral body and the physical body. You got people that do walk in their sleep, sleepwalk. And is this their physical body that's now basically linked up with their astral body and is responding to it rather than the other way around? You know what I mean? Rather than the other way around.
Yeah, actually, I have a really good idea because once I had this mushroom trip, and you know how you describe, we just talk about the different version of you doing whatever in different plane of dimension. It was the first time I did mushroom, and what I felt is I felt like I was in all of those places at the same moment, at the same time. So it sounds like a beautiful experience, but it's also frightening because everything was all happening at once. So I couldn't like use the data or analyze any part of it because it was like just everything that ever exists, every being alive or whatever, just all at once. And from the outsider's perspective, people looked at me and I looked like someone you should put in a crazy hospital. People, like I was out of my mind. My eyes were like cross-eyed, and forget the body. The body was unresponsive. It's like when you update your Windows. And you can't use the computer, because
the wheel's spinning, but the hamster won't come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. But inside, I was having this immensely beautiful experience of being every being that ever existed, and I saw multiple timeline of this version of myself. I saw my past, and I died like so much in that little moment. I had a lot of death experience of maybe past life or who God knows. I mean, it's really hard to describe, but that was like the most powerful thing that I ever went through. So I understand what you mean with the parallel dimensions or the different version of you when you like astral project. It's just you just start where you left off, type of thing.
Yeah, you've touched onto a topic that's been kind of a lot of questions that I've had for recently. I'm sure y'all have heard of the Mandela effect, where people believe they remember something. Now that could be very well tied into with the fact that we're multidimensional beings, and it because the last one I had was when I worked at a casino. When I went back to work there again, one of the managers that I was a manager with back in the day with there, she told me that she had come over to my house and we had like copulated and all these other things, and I'm like, no, we didn't. You never even been to my house. She says, yeah, we watched a movie and all this. And now I've been dreaming of her. I've had dreams of her 3 times now where me and her are boyfriend and girlfriend. And I'm just wondering if she had a dream, if she had dreamt that, or it was, so real that she had literally went to that reality that I've been going to now. So I'm just wondering if this Mandela effect isn't just the multidimensional part of us that is shifted to another Earth that has the same similarities, but just a couple different things different.
Yeah, and like the relationship.
Right. Yeah. So that's right. Lately, that's been part and parcel of what's my thinking, my questions have been, which has brought these dreams back to surface again. With me being in a different reality that's similar, like we'll be at the same casino and we're friends or boyfriend and girlfriend, but that was never the case in this physical reality that I'm in when I'm fully conscious.
Yeah. So, what is that? What you just mentioned, that reality. Why this one and not another one? Like this is what is bugging me. Why do I will always go back to this particular one when I know deeply that all of them are possible?
I think we would pretty much go insane. I mean, look at Sybil from I don't know if y'all remember the movie Sybil back in the 70s. The book and the movie Sybil, it's a woman who had multiple personalities. I mean, it might be kind of hard to function in this physical reality if all our other realities, it's kind of like the mind wipe we come here where we don't really remember our past lives. Just so, I mean, imagine you come into this lifetime and you remember your past life when your mother was your lover or your lover was your sister, or it might make it difficult having a full-on relationship the way that you have it set up for this lifetime if you're constantly going back to that other one. And I mean, it goes even into transgender issues that maybe people are feeling this past life where they were a woman instead of a man, and so they're trying to, they vibrate to that one and really feel that one heavily, so they kind of are trying to bring it through into this reality, even though this lifetime do you have a male or a female body?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
that's what I love about the astral and about Dreamtime is it brings together gives you more to question, which keeps you constantly learning, but it
Mhm.
also sort of blends things together that sort of didn't make sense before, but now when brought into the light of astral and dreaming, it kind of you can see where it would make some sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
What do you think?
It's just, you know, sometime when you're in those higher realms of reality, after you hang in there, you just and you go back to this to third density, and you just like, why? You know, why don't can I just stay in those realms instead and say like, fuck this one? You know?
Yeah, and see did you ever see the 13th Floor?
No.
The movie The 13th Floor. It's very interesting. It's about, you know, because you know, when you go into this, you start getting into the simulated realities. Is this a
Mhm.
simulator? Just one of many simulated realities. Again,
Yeah.
another you
You
know, when you
could
get
play
into
like The Sims 13 right now or something like this, you know?
right, yeah, which one are we in? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Ephraim, or no, what's that guy's name? The one that posed the three questions, three suppositions. One, no realm has, or no society has reached technical superiority to such where they could create a reality as convincing as this one. Two, they either died out or just never made it. Two, that there was a society that reached technological maturity where they could create a universe as convincing as ours, but they decided, no, forget it, we're not going to use the computing power. And then the third supposition is that you are living in a simulated reality. One of those three have to be true.
I mean,
And
you
then,
can't prove you're not because it could be simulated to make you believe that it's not a simulation.
well, sometimes I hope this is a simulated reality because of my love for the planet and seeing what's going on with the planet.
Yeah.
I'm desperately hoping this is just a simulation and we haven't done permanent damage to an actual reality. You know?
It's just like a really bad gameplay or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Like
see,
you
that's
die and you have a screen that's a reload from last checkpoint or start a new game. And yeah, that wasn't my best playthrough.